Anybody up for a bike ride starting a little north of Meyersdale, Pennsylvania, then dropping south through some nice countryside to the eastern Continental Divide, then going across the Mason-Dixon line, then dropping a little south into the mountainous region of western Maryland, home of the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. Mileage-wise, Frostburg is the halfway point. However, energy expended-wise, it's all done before the Continental Divide. The rest is easy. Ended up in Cumberland, Maryland for about a 34-mile or so trip. Thanks but no thanks, you say? That's cool. Just sit back and watch the video then and enjoy our energy. Unlike being in the UK where you do not want to be in the gap, for us, the gap is where it's at. A combination of two trails enables bikers to go from DC to Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh to DC, but we just chose to do the small part in the middle. There's a lot of great scenery packed into these 34 miles, to include the Salisbury and Keystone viaducts, 3 tunnels, the Mason-Dixon line, great views, and we even saw a couple bonus trains. So let's back up to the beginning and get this trip started. A high-protein breakfast is essential, or is it carb loading? I forget. Or maybe it's both. Who knows? We made advance reservations for 2 bikes, 1 electric, 1 geared, and also a van ride from Cumberland, Maryland up to the starting point in Pennsylvania. For the 3 of us, the 2 bikes plus my trike. First part of the trip toward the Continental Divide, we gained about 300 feet in elevation, going slow and steady uphill almost the whole way. Not horrible. After lunch at the Continental Divide, it was all downhill, dropping about 1,800 feet before we got back to Cumberland. With rental bikes in hand, we take them for a little test drive, waiting for the van, who actually showed up early, which was cool. As an experiment, I got an old cell phone to do a little time-lapse photography. It's a little shaky, but it's still all right. We wanted to cross the viaduct, so we actually head toward Pittsburgh, cross over the viaduct, and look around a little bit. It was very neat. On the Pittsburgh side of the viaduct, there's a little cemetery and a little farm. Either the cows were slow waking up or they've already done their morning exercises and they're resting now. While I was shooting cows, Logan stopped on the viaduct and took several shots. All right, let's get this thing started. Here we go. Salisbury Viaduct, the longest of the 2 viaducts, was really pretty neat and well worth doing. Come on with us. Our van driver, Will, told us a lot of interesting trivia about Pennsylvania, the Amish in the area, and a couple really neato stories to while away the time while we drove up to the viaduct to get started. I knew our trip would have 3 tunnels in it. I was unclear of the 3rd tunnel, and when I saw this, I thought, that's just an overpass. Turned out, it was just an overpass. A couple miles into the trip, we come into the town of Meyersdale. They have a little museum, which we didn't check out, but they did have a caboose with an open door, so guess what? We might have stopped here for a while. All right, good. They're still smiling, which means I don't think they want to kill me, at least yet. Time to bug out of Meyersdale, home of a lot of maple syrup. However, still very near Meyersdale, we hear some train horns, so we thought, well, we better check it out. And so we not only saw 1 train, we saw 2. We pause on the Allegheny Passage for this word from a train. If you're keeping score, the first train was Norfolk Southern, the second was CSX, but we need to get moving here. All right, with trains in the rear view, we take off and try to catch up to Tracy, who kept on going. The side pouch on Logan's bike was provided by the bike rental place. It had an air pump and a blowout tire kit and everything. Pretty cool. Tracy's e-bike had the same kit in it, plus a battery charger in case, we were going to be gone a long time. Lots of rivers, creeks, and little streams in PA, thus there was a whole bunch of different kind of bridges and just little overpasses. That expression just shows how much energy she's applying with her e-bike to climb this little hill. Yeah, we arrive at the Keystone Viaduct, which was also kind of cool. We did stop and take several pictures. Another little story about our van driver, Will. We mentioned the whole reason to go to Meyersdale was to go across the viaduct. He said, "Hey, I know a place to put you almost right on the viaduct. I'll take you there instead of Meyersdale." So thanks to Will, he saved us like 4 miles, 2 miles each way to backtrack. So that was nice. On the way up the long hill, Tracy and Logan swapped bikes back and forth to give each other a break. So that was cool. Speaking of breaks, it's break time for a little bit of protein bars and water. Oh, this can't be good, but we're going over the bridge anyway. Oh, I get it. It's an old train bridge that's fallen apart. Did I mention the gap is an old railroad bed? Trains are gone. Fortunate for us, otherwise they'd run us over. Yeah, 8 miles in. Still going uphill. We've gone 365 feet plus elevation. Past the bridges and stuff. People back there. Well, you just never know who you're going to see on the trail. Hey, wrong way! That's Logan on the e-bike. With minimal effort, he gets up to about 22 miles an hour. The e-bike is pretty cool, I must admit. Well, with both trestles behind us, the next thing coming up is a little place to join the path at Deal. There's really not much there other than a parking lot and a relatively decent porta-john made out of brick. There it is now. Pit stop over. Tracy and Logan trade bikes again. There goes Logan zooming by on the e-bike. They traded off and on climbing up the hill. There goes Logan down the hill heading toward Pittsburgh. I imagine he'll be back sooner or later. He sure had a lot of fun on that e-bike. I actually expected him to zoom past me before we got to the Continental Divide, but he must have really backtracked. You can fly on the e-bike with minimal effort. All right, that little arch up ahead is the Continental Divide. Turkey Vulture, I better check my pulse. Yep. Going about 9 miles an hour. Once we get past the Continental Divide, it's all downhill or flat the rest of the way to Cumberland. Thought Logan would be zooming by with his e-bike. All right, we made it to the top. It's a good thing there's a line so the rainwater knows which way to go. Seems he backtracked quite a bit. Here he is. All right, we're at the Eastern Continental Divide, so Logan's going to pour a drop of water. All right. So you guys head to the Gulf of Mexico. You guys head to the Chesapeake Bay. See ya. All right, science experiment over, lunch over, photo ops over. Time to head on down. There's the Big Savage Tunnel. Don't know where Logan is. Whoa! E-bike maniac! Now let's back up and see how we got to the tunnel. Having passed the high point, it's all downhill, so we're going to go a little bit faster mile per hour wise with a little less energy. But we got a big tunnel called the Big Savage Tunnel coming ahead. There it is now. They do close the tunnel in the winter just to keep the tunnel from deteriorating too bad. It's got gigantic steel doors on each end of it. Took Tracy a little longer to come out of the tunnel because she was doing echo experiments. And Logan just went back in the tunnel to do his own experiments, plus just to have more fun inside the tunnel.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm going to go back through that this time, not. We made it!
Just outside the tunnel, we stopped to admire the views. With the oohs and ahs out of the way, we get back on our bikes and head down the trail. Sure is nice saying down the trail. We no sooner get started when we see this little ramp on the right. Logan decides to backtrack and play. He almost wiped out, but that's another story. Time for a little trivia here. Back in 1767, a guy by the name of Charles Mason and his partner, Jeremiah Dixon, were wrapping up their survey efforts, somehow known as the Mason-Dixon line. I only mention it because there it is. Logan's a little confused because one tire's in Pennsylvania and one tire's in Maryland, and he's not sure which way to go. Oh, well, that's his problem. I sure hope he doesn't head toward Pittsburgh, because that could be a problem. Time for me to do a U-turn photo op and get down the road. I'm now going to try to think up some useless trivia to toss out here on the Mason-Dixon line, but right now, other than it was a really nice fall day, temperatures in the mid-60s, just a great day to be outside for the end of October. Leaves kind of falling down everywhere. And here comes some unknown person getting in my frame. Get out of my picture. As we slowly approach the Maryland end of the Mason-Dixon line, there it is. Well, with time to make one more U-turn around the Mason-Dixon line just for fun, we see two ATVs going down the trail. That could be annoying. Anyway, speaking of annoying, every time I thought I was in the clear, somebody would pass me and get, like road hog the whole path. Other than that, there was a few people out on a Thursday, but for the most part, we had a lot of the trail to ourselves. Very shortly, we're going to come upon the second tunnel. Kind of interesting, the tunnel had motion sensing LED lights. Problem is, we were kind of going at a decent clip and the LEDs couldn't catch up, so the lights actually turned on after we passed them. Kind of crazy. As we continue to not pedal very much, zoom down the path, we're almost at Frostburg. Frostburg is, if you care, that's the end of the line for the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. And I was a little bit surprised to learn Frostburg is halfway between Meyersdale and Cumberland. Good news is a lot less effort on this 16 miles. So we're in Frostburg. There's Tracy pushing Logan's bike up the hill. There's Logan with his e-bike, actually Tracy's e-bike. Cheating! I'm staying in the rear with the gear. We were all surprised to see the 1309 at the station. Usually the 1309 only runs on the weekends, but I guess with the fall colors, there it is. There goes a weird train. That would be the rail bikes for Tracks and Yaks going back up to Frostburg. At Frostburg, my smartphone camera battery bit the dust, so I'm going to take a couple little handheld shots and speed it up so you don't get bored if you haven't already been bored. After Frostburg, the path seems a little bit narrow, but it's still really cool, really fine gravel, didn't chew up the tires at all. Actually a pretty darn good ride. Coming up to the last tunnel, we decide we want to wait for the train a while and get some video of it, so that's what we do. All in all, we probably delayed our trip by, I don't know, hour and a half or so, waiting on train-related things. So the plan is to wait on the Cumberland side of the tunnel. The train will come through. The 1309 will actually be going in reverse, and Logan plans on biking and videoing the locomotive, so we'll see how that goes. Sadly, in this case, the light at the end of the tunnel is just the outside and not the train. We're going to have to wait about 45 minutes for the train to come. Just past the tunnel, we pull over and stop. Thought I'd take the time and take this picture. Then I realized that cameras and pole was really bothering me, so I decided to just remove them. Much better now. I'll have to remember to put those things back later, but for now, I hear the rumble of a train. Jeez. I could pace him by walking. All right, speed it up, mister. Let's get moving here. Well, it's about here. I give Logan a little shove to get his inertia going, and he's going to let the train slowly pass him. And then once he gets to the steam engine, then he'll pace the steam engine. I can hardly wait to see how his video shows up while mine has seen better days. It's an extra long passenger train, probably due to the fact that it's a steam engine. Oh, nice paint job, by the way, leading up the hill and the fall colors. As we waited patiently for the train to arrive, we sort of joked that it's probably a special dinner train with a layover at Frostburg till, like midnight, so we'd be hanging out here forever. But hey, here comes the engine now. Worst video ever with the sun flare, but oh well, we'll see what Logan's looks like. This is Tracy Cam showing Logan coming down pacing the locomotive. We'll check it out. Logan saw this other biker and another biker and thought he was blocking their shot, but he was not. But it was really nice of him to ask. Very conscientious guy. Hey, that's my trike. What? Get back here. Well, with the train gone, we continue getting close to the last trestle as we enter Cumberland. Well, trip over. We started around 11-ish, finished up about 4:30-ish. Time for a little Dairy Queen and then Olive Garden. We'll finish up this video with Logan's video. See what you think about how he paced the train. Well, the back of this shirt sort of sums it up, other than it's 2 states, not 3 states. But anyway, we weren't out to break any speed records, but we did see a lot of cool stuff. With a slow-moving train and a bike path right there, it's actually a pretty safe spot to pace the train. If you haven't seen the 1309 in person, you really ought to check it out. It's the biggest and heaviest locomotive in operation this side of the Mississippi. I'll tell you a little bit more about the 1309, but right now it's making its way toward Logan, so here comes Logan's video. In addition to the diesel providing electric power, there's also a generator car providing power to the passenger cars. Here's a little 1309 facts. So it was built in 1949 by the Baldwin Locomotive Works. It was purpose-built and sold to the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway to pull heavy coal loads out of the mountains of West Virginia and Kentucky. Don't look now, but here comes a California Zephyr observation car. That would provide a pretty nice view. 1309 worked hard from 1949 till 1956, at which time it went into storage for a while. Did I mention the nice paint job there? Oh well, I guess they needed the extra passenger space. They can paint it later. After about 20 years of sitting around, the B&O Railroad Museum in Baltimore acquired it. It was restored for static display, meaning it didn't run, but it looked good. It was purchased in 2014 by the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. It took several years and just under $3 million to turn the static display into a working locomotive. As you will see shortly, it's got 2 sets of driving wheels and 2 sets of pistons. It's basically 2 engines in one. Take another quick look at it. It's articulated, which means it'll go around corners pretty good. It's a 2662, meaning 2 pilot wheels, a set of 6 driver wheels, a second set of 6 driver wheels, and 2 wheels under the firebox. The driving wheels are 56 inches in diameter. It's 99.7 feet long, and it's 15 feet high. It carries 14 tons of bituminous coal and 12,000 gallons of water. It has 210 pounds of boiler pressure, and it's got a superheater, which means it takes steam at 212 degrees and heats it up higher so to make it more efficient. In other words, to make it more powerful. It has mechanical lubricators, which puts a little bit of oil in the steam to keep things working good, and a stoker or a screw auger, so no shoveling coal. Yay. mostly because the firebox is so ginormous, normal people can never shovel coal fast enough. So it's got like an auger, or if a worm gear, for lack of a better description. The folks at Western Maryland did a really good job getting this thing to run. It made its first little photo op December 31st of 2020. It's billed as the largest locomotive in the United States with regular service, which is technically true. It is the biggest locomotive this side of the Mississippi River. However, the biggest locomotive in the United States is the Big Boy by Union Pacific, but it only makes runs every once in a while. If you ever get the opportunity, both locomotives are well worth seeing. Very impressive in person. It was sure nice of Western Maryland to pony up $2.8 million just so Logan could get this video. If you're wondering why the 1309's running kind of quiet and not doing the chuffing like you would expect, remember that diesel's leading the downhill charge, so the 1309 is kind of resting going down. He does lots of work going up the hill. Well, Logan, you did a great job on that video. And we had a really good bike ride. Just a great day.